album Prairiography, which is still a lot of my fans' favorite record of mine, I used an old grain silo, a giant concrete cylinder. It's about 100 feet tall and maybe like 30 feet across or something. We used that as our reverb tank, so we ran everything through the grain silo. It's pretty cool. So it has a very distinct sound, that record, and we actually put pretty much
the intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
We have another fun episode for you this week. We head north of the border to talk with Canadian country artist Barber. He's got a new album out, Almanac. You can check that out on streaming platforms everywhere. It's a fun listen. I recommend it. But before we get to that, up next is Tasting Notes with Chad Watson. And do bourbon consumers really care or need to care about the awards the brands get? Find out next. Enjoy.
Did you know Hops and Spirits is more than just this podcast? Check out hopspirits.com for our latest episode release, past episodes, interviews with interesting folks in the alcohol industry, and so much more. Just go to hopspirits.com. Feel free to wait until this podcast is done.
Joining us once again on Tasting Notes, it's Chad Watson. You might know him as AKA My Daily Bourbon on Instagram and other social media, I believe, as well. He's part of the Bourbon Life crew. Welcome back.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Good times as always.
Absolutely. And, I didn't really let you rant on the last one. It was more just a casual conversation about grilling, good summer pours, things like that. So I felt bad. So I think it's time for you to rant. Because I feel like if you're not ranting with me, you're missing an opportunity to get some things off your chest.
It's true. Without you, Jonathan, I don't know who I would rant to.
Just random people on the street.
Yeah. Listen, have you heard about budget bourbons yet? What about Bottle and Bond?
Maybe that could be a new series for you on My Daily Bourbon.
You know what? If you go to like a big city, like outside Kentucky, like Nashville or Chicago or somewhere, that might do some good.
See, who knows? A little street talk with Chad. But today's topic, though, I think it's a fun one because it's kind of that season. Granted, I feel like it's all year round when you see brands talking about the awards they won, winning double gold or this or that. And it got me thinking. I saw a brand the other day got some stuff, and I was like, there's no way they got that. Realized it was for other things besides their juice. It may have been marketing and other stuff. So I was like, okay, that's a little better.
Yeah.
But do awards matter to consumers? Because clearly they do to brands. But should they matter to consumers as well?
So I'm going to start this off on a low note. So yes and no. Okay. So when you go into a store, like you or I, and we see an award, we're just kind of like, okay. But then we're also like, you're like, how did they win that? But here's what people don't know. Best packaging, best bottle, best marketing plan or whatever strategy. There's all kinds of things in there. And they'll just put, we got a gold medal. Well, what'd you get a gold medal for? They liked our label. Okay, so didn't taste good. You didn't win anything there. So it's kind of a misdirection. And those brands have to pay. So you go to the San Francisco Spirits. You have to pay to use that logo. You can't just put it out there willy-nilly. You got to pay San Francisco Spirits Competition to use their logo because that's almost like an endorsement. So they need money back from that. So for every unit sold, because you're throwing that on, they're putting that on there to sell it. So San Francisco says, we rated it, you pay us. Everyday consumers, however, are going to go in, they're going to see that, like, oh, it's got a double gold, it's got a platinum, it's got, a triple crown or whatever. There's like 500 spirits competitions out that, like, people send to. And, there's a brand in Tennessee, I'm not going to say their name, people figure it out. But they are the most awarded whiskey brand in history, and they've only been around for this is their fourth or fifth year. And you have to wonder, how does that happen? Because they literally submit to every competition, every category they can. So when these brands submit to this stuff, they have to be very detailed. What's the age on it? If they don't want to list the age, it just has to go into like a small batch or an uncategorized. But if they want to be, say Eagle Rare, it could be best 10-year bourbon. But if Eagle Rare is the only thing that's entered in best 10-year bourbon, it's by default is the winner. So there's all these little like ways that they get around it. And the big thing that I want consumers to do is always ask more questions. So having had the retail experience in the liquor industry and people coming in, oh, this one a double gold, it must be good. And I'm like, well, that's up to you. Try for yourself. But it's also a $200 bottle. Just because it's $200 doesn't mean it's good. Well, they tasted it blind. Well, that person tasted 59 other things that day or 100 other things that day, or they might not even be drinking bourbon. And by the time they got the bourbon, they're like, damn, this bourbon's pretty good because all that gin sucked. So it's very weird to me how spirits competitions are done. And I think a lot more of them are starting to go like, okay, you're only going to do bourbon, so it doesn't shock people's palates and doesn't ruin them. But when you taste and you swish and you spit all that every day, their palates are shot. And I've known people who've done competitions, and by the end of it, they're like, I won't drink for a week. I don't want to look at bourbon. I don't want to look at whiskey or whatever they did because they're tired of it. And not that any of them have admitted to saying, just agreeing, because San Francisco, you get a gold. Everyone liked it. Or everyone liked it at that table. Double gold, it went through a second round. Platinum, everyone liked it in the competition or something like that. And the people I know who've done that there have been people who've been just like, by the end of it, you get to some and you're just kind of like, yeah, it's good. I agree. Check the box, this, fill out the form, hand it in. And they're done because they've been there for 10 hours tasting through all that crap. And, I mean, not saying it's all crap, but just, situationally speaking. But to me, like, I'm like you. I see an award. Why did they get it? How did they get that? Because there's a few awards that came out this year. I'm like, there's no way that that's the best bourbon in the country. And then you look and it's like North Dakota Styles Legion Spirits Competition. And it's like, well, what the hell is that? Who entered that? And you look and you're like, oh, they're the only bourbon who entered that. So they won by default. So I ask people to we all have smartphones. We all have a computer in our pocket now. When you see that, look it up. I want everyone to always peek and peer and do the research. So not saying that you should just take it at face value, because some of those people in the stores, there's so many competitions out there, people just don't know. But some of those people in the store are not going to be able to give you every detail, like why they won. Because hell, I mean, for the longest time, I didn't even know like why they won. There were some brands that, like I said, that won that it's a lot of times it's on label design, and you've got 3 or 4 big companies making the same labels for all the same places, and then they all work together, and you're like, well, then every brand wins on label, but it just says gold medal. So look up the spirits competition first off, because there's some of them that are like, there's a wine competition that's owned by, or one of the co-owners is the winery. So that winery gets like a 99 score every year. They won't get 100, but they'll get like a 99. And then you got to wonder, well, look who sponsors, look who co-owns it. Oh, well, it's the person who owns that winery, or the team behind that winery also own this wine competition. So there's a lot of things in the background. There's a lot of moving parts, because those spirits competitions, they're there. It's a business. They're there to make money. The brands pay them. Not saying like, hey, Buffalo Trace says, I've paid my entry fee, we deserve a medal. That's not how it works, but it is a business. I'm not saying it's not fair, but I do not think that at the end of the day, overall, they matter for sales. But to a degree, I'm sure that a lot of people just walk in, they're like, oh shit, that got an ASCOT award, I'm going to buy that. What the hell is an ASCOT award? I mean, if you don't know who Fred Minnick is and you just see an ASCOT award, you have no idea. So
this is very, very fair. And that makes me wonder then, what would be your recommendation then? Is it something like, hey, look at Whiskey Advocate, or look at one of those places that does reviews and kind of scores things, or maybe it's a person that you're like, oh, they seem to have a similar palate to mine. Is that maybe the best way to go about it? So if folks are looking for a little heads up? That's
what I would do. I was a big fan of Breaking Bourbon and Bourboner and those websites in my early days, and even some of the forums. Like before I really got into like posting on social media and talking about bourbon, I would get on forums and just look up stuff or just Google search it. Find the people who align with you, because Whiskey Advocate, I hate to say it, but they take payment for placement. You pay them enough money, you're going to get an ad. I mean, obviously you get an ad spot, but you'll get a ranking, you'll get this. Tasting notes and that kind of stuff are subjective to the person who's writing for that. Like, I don't want to put that author down or that reviewer down or anything, but their rankings will come out as, if Heaven Hill's got the most amount of money and they have the top 5, well, there's a reason they got the top 5. but it really just depends on who wants to spend the most out of their marketing budget for that year. What I have done is I have found the people I believe in, and that changes over time. Everyone's palate changes. There's people who I used to watch, who I used to read, even talk to, one-on-one. And like, oh, I trust what they say. But then, my palate goes this way or their palate goes this way. So you kind of, stay current. Like Chad and Sarah's Barber Night. I've been watching them for years, since they started, basically, not long after. And I've always kind of aligned with them. And even to this day, there's still things we split on. Like I love Old Forester 1910. Chad hates Old Forester 1910. I helped do a blind series for them, and I chose Old Forester 1910, and it was a blind. And I was like, this is better. And Chad hates it. But sometimes you're not always going to agree. And I used to watch other people or read other people on Reddit. Reddit's a really good place too. Not necessarily for, I don't want to say accurate. I don't want to put anyone down on Reddit. Like there's several good reviewers on there, but some people just copy and paste. I've seen a lot of people who just will copy a review, paste it, and just kind of reword it. So, you got to take a period out here, put a comma in there so the teacher doesn't know that you really are just stealing someone else's work. But at the end of the day, it really just boils down to, like, if it interests you and you've got the disposable income, it's worth trying. But find one or two people who you really align with and go that route. I know magazines are kind of on the way out, and really websites are on their way out. It's all about social media these days. And even as someone who is on the social media portion, I hate to consider myself an influencer because brands do send me stuff. And, but I review it. So am I influencing or not? And this may sound like like I'm sticking my foot in my mouth, but if it's bad, I just won't put my opinion out there, or I'll tell the brand I don't like it. I can still make my post. Everything I do is free. I don't take any money. If I like it, I genuinely like it. So people who are like, I tried that, didn't care for it. Okay, sorry, but I did. Or I will post something and I don't like it. And like, well, I love it. Well, that happens. But not if you find someone who, like, you and I, if like I liked what you said 90% of the time, 90% is a good record. There might always be that 1 or 2 bottles a year, but as long as there is 70% of everything else, good reason to have a following, good reason to trust what that person says.
Very, very, very well said, and hopefully people can tell that I'm, not terrible and not always mixing my bourbon, even though that is part of the premise of one of our series.
And I love it.
Well, and I love the rant here, Chad, and thank you as always.
Thanks for letting me rant. And it's one of those topics that, like, I could go on and on and on forever for, but I have to stop myself so I don't get mad.
Check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hops Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our conversation, he's a country artist, songwriter. His latest album, Almanac, is out now. Welcome in, Del Barber.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Now, where are you at? Are you in Canada right now?
I am. I just got home. I just drove straight home from Houston. One stopover, so it was about 36 hours door to door from the venue in Houston to my little farm up in western Manitoba. Pretty much in the middle of Canada, just slightly west of the middle. That's where I live. Yeah.
I like it. Now I've had I got a few Canadian friends. They were on the golf team when I was in college, so I've got to learn a few things. Has it finally warmed up enough for you guys to get outside a little bit nowadays?
Yeah, it's actually it probably hit 87 today, 88. Ooh, it's hot. It's like thunderstorms. We never actually got rain, but it was one of those days where it was just kind of rumbling all over us, and but no rain. So we're looking for rain right now. It's pretty dry out here. So anyone wants to will us some rain, that'd be pretty nice.
Well, we'll do our best. Now, the show's called Bar Conversations, and I always got to ask, what are you drinking tonight, or what's your go-to drink?
All right, well, what I'm drinking tonight is not my go-to drink, but it's because of scarcity. Like I said, I just got home, and I haven't had a chance to get to town and stock up. So I am drinking a gin and tonic right now. Maybe some people can hear it. It's refreshing, and it's a hot day, so it actually is going down pretty nice. But generally speaking, I like cheap, very cold beer. It's my favorite drink. But if I am drinking booze, I generally stick to the brown stuff, and I would choose bourbon or rye whiskey would be my preferred liquor of choice.
I like it. I like it. I was gonna say my daughter decided to try to crash the show there for a second.
Nice.
I got a little George Remus in my glass tonight.
We cannot get Remus in Canada. If you can, I don't know how to get it. If there's Canadians out there listening, I have no idea where to get it, so let me know where.
Well, you just got to come visit the U.S. a little bit more. Come through Kentucky, Indiana, and hit all the good spots.
That's the plan. I gotta do a tour based on bourbon distilleries. I think that would be. I don't know. Maybe that would be a mistake. I might come home a changed man, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
Or a whole lot less money. Somehow the tour did not make any money as Dell bought up all the bourbon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now I read where you met your wife at one of your shows. Is that true? Is that how you all came to be?
That's how we came to be. Yep. Actually, about a mile from my farm here, there's these 5 grain elevators. It's a National Historic Site. They call them the 5 Prairie Giants. Inglis, Manitoba is the town if people want to look it up. And they're these beautiful old grain elevators made of stacked 2x4s, Douglas fir from British Columbia. They got put on a train. They built these elevators out of it. And she was the tour guide. And they do concerts in these things now to try to, keep them erect, try to keep them from falling over and raise money. And so I was coming out to play a concert in one of the grain elevators. She was the tour guide, and the rest is history, as they say.
Now, I was going to say, I also think I saw, too, where, speaking of like those grain elevators, the grain silo, on one of your albums, did you not record the reverb in the silo and use some farm machinery noises on it as well? Yeah,
my album Prairiography, which is still a lot of my fans' favorite record of mine, I used an old grain silo, a giant concrete cylinder. It's about 100 feet tall and maybe like 30 feet across or something. We used that as our reverb tank, so we ran everything through the grain silo. It's pretty cool. So it has a very distinct sound, that record, and we actually put pretty much every instrument through that, and then we could choose how much reverb we wanted on that particular track, if it's a guitar or acoustic guitar or pedal steel or whatever. So I'm always interested in like trying to actually weave geography into my actual sound, not just metaphorically. That's always been part of the plan for me.
Well, I was gonna say, you literally did that. Now, what spurred you on to think, let's put the farm machinery in there, let's reverb this through a grain silo? Because I feel like that took a little thinking, or you had a little bit of help from something.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I just I take things to like the furthest conclusion that they can go to a fault. And my wife hates it because if she wants to start a garden, our garden's going to be 2 acres. And you know what I mean? So it's...
so nothing small.
Nothing small. I just go for stuff. And I just try to figure them out as best as I can. And the same goes with making food or drinks or trips with my buddies. I want it all. I want it to be great, and I don't want to spare any excitement or adventure or expense.
I like it. And like you said, you're living up on the farm with your wife and 2 kids, right? Got a couple young ones. Like I said, my 4.5-year-old was trying to crash the show to ask me a question that I'm sure was super important.
Yeah.
But how's life on the farm?
Yeah, we were just both putting our kids to bed before we got to have a drink together. It's pretty nice nighttime ritual for me when I get home. Yeah, and my little farm here is just a hobby farm. But when I do have time and I'm not touring a new record and it's not terribly busy, I end up on my wife's family farm, and it's a lot more intensive. It's like 5,000 acres and 300 cows and a bunch of grain land. And here at my little punt of a farm is we're just doing meat chickens, and we have some horses and a big garden and stuff like that. It's more of an acreage than anything else. We have a little bit of hayland here that we cut, but that's it really. But yeah, the big farming operation is when I'm short on gigs. I end up working for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and I love it.
I was gonna say that's a good son-in-law right there.
Well, they're nice enough to employ me. Employing musicians we're not the most reliable. We could be gone for 3 months and then home for a few weeks, and luckily on the farm there's no shortage of labor to be had, and I do love to work, and so I get to sort of use both sides of my brain, that creative side, and then the sort of get to work, put your head down and grind. Yeah, I really like being able to do both, and I hope that I can continue to have a life where both of those things are sort of essential pieces to my personality.
I was gonna say, I mean, if you weren't doing music, would you be on the farm, or would you be out fishing somewhere, or maybe
I'd be
a guide
fishing.
of some sort?
Yeah, I've joked for a long time, if I could figure out how to make money fishing, I would probably just do that. But I also worry. I used to fish tournaments when I was a kid, and I did get to experience when it didn't become fun, when it wasn't fun, when it became work, and I'm not sure that I want to do that to my fishing life. Fishing is just the place where I get to turn off everything and be creative, and that's usually the place where I write the most. It's like where I'm most inspired is when I fish, or hunt for that matter, and so like just time outside for me is key, no matter what it is. Yeah. Do you like to fish at all? Are you an angler?
I am not. I don't have that skill. I'm a golfer, and I
Oh yeah.
enjoy though getting out on the water and being on a boat.
Well, there's a lot of. I was just down in Colorado, and there's a lot of people who fly fish like me, and they seem to like attract golfers as well. That sport. There's something
I've got a couple
similar.
buddies that do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's something similar about the two pursuits: the precision, the frustration, dealing with frustration.
The ability to have a drink on occasion.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And just figuring out little problems. I love. I'm not much of a golfer. I golf here. We have a par three course, which is actually a beautiful par three course, but it's like one of those small town courses. It's cheap. It's where you go hang out with your buddies and you have a beer and you walk around and you hit some irons. It's pretty fun. I don't get out golfing nearly as much as I'd like to. That's for sure.
I would love to get into fishing more, especially for like my daughter. I need to get her to not be terrified of worms and things like that. So
Yeah.
we might have to get her out of the city a little bit.
Hmm.
She tends to have a meltdown when there's a bug or a worm, and it's kind of funny, but also I'm like, we got to work on that.
Yeah, my kids just want to cut the worm in half, and they'd have no trouble with bugs, unless like we have what they call biblical bugs in where I live. Not yet, but in about a month, the mosquitoes are going to be so bad that you can't even go outside at dawn and dusk. They're just absolutely biblical, as they say. And then in the summer and months, in July and August, our fly problem gets pretty serious, especially because we have livestock around, so it just attracts flies. And our kids are not afraid of bugs, but they do come in just covered in bites, and it's like a lot for us to deal with in the post game, And so we try to
you got to
keep them
check
away from
everything,
that. Yeah, yeah. We
and they
got
seem
lots
to
of-
get
yeah.
into everything.
Yeah, bugs are a funny one. I have just like I have no trouble with ticks or mosquitoes or black flies. I just have this like high tolerance, and like by the end of the year, bites don't even show up on me anymore from mosquitoes. I just become a blood donor, and I don't even worry about them anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't really think about them, and then I go out with people that
You're just a true farmer,
they just spend
true outdoorsman.
their life in the city, and even like a lot of people out here that just like they can't deal with them. They get completely ravaged. So I am one of the lucky ones for sure.
Yeah, I am not. I get a little bug bite in my arm, like swells up, and I'm like,
Oh
that's
man,
fine.
that's brutal.
Yep, I've passed that along to my daughter. She gets it like half as bad as I do, but yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah. So what do? You just wear long sleeves because you gotta run into mosquitoes on the golf course all the time.
I just deal with it. I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Maybe a little
totally.
bug spray. Hope it works.
Yeah.
I did that. We went out to my buddy's farm, and I was like, I'm going to spray myself down. My wife's like, you should wear pants. I'm like, I'll be fine in shorts. And then we did the tick check, and they were everywhere that I didn't spray, which was basically my shorts and my boxers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that was quite fun. That was quite fun. I learned. I was like, okay, maybe pants next time. That might be a must.
Yeah, I wear pants pretty much all unless I'm going swimming. Just because of that. Just trying not to catch anything from those ticks. They're pretty nasty.
Yes, they are now. Now, if you, when did you get into music? When did that become something that you just enjoyed?
I've always enjoyed it. I've been like playing guitar since I was like 11. As soon as I could hold it, pretty much. I never really thought it was going to be like a career path for me. I've never actually admitted that it's my career. You know, I've been paying my mortgage by playing concerts for a decade now. So I guess it's technically my career, but I never like sat my parents down and said, "This is what I'm going to do. I got this dream. I'm going to make a record and I'm going to try and tour it." And that was just never like a reality for me. It just sort of trickled into this life, and then I wake up 10 years later on this little farm in Western Manitoba, realize like, oh, music did this, you know. So I don't know. I'm pretty lucky that somehow I've figured it out. I'm like, I always wish I could make a little bit more money, but who doesn't? You know, you don't like become a alternative country folk singer and expect to rake it in. That's for sure. I mean, if you do, good for you, but that ain't me, you know.
I was going to say you are your own artist, and I've got a few questions on that here in a second. But I'm guessing your father had a big impact on your music as well, because he was also co-writing on some of the songs with you too, right?
Yeah, we wrote a lot of songs together, and he just passed almost 2 years ago now, and that's the biggest bummer. Not only did I lose like a great dad and a friend, but I lost the guy I would run every single song past, and he would do the same with me. You know, we had this cool relationship where we could write songs with each other, and I've joked a lot about it. I say if you ever want to try to write a song with your dad or with your son, I recommend email, because my dad and I would just fight. If we did it in person, it got really tense. And a lot of my dad's songs, everybody dies, like flat out. They die, like they might not even die at the end. They like might die in the beginning. And his criticism of my work is that I was always just a little bit too hopeful. And so when we got together, it was like a pretty good combination of like equal parts altruism and like darkness. So I don't know. It's pretty cool to get to have that in my life. And there's still a bunch of his old songs that I'm making my way through and trying to figure out what to do with them. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I was going to say that's awesome, because I don't feel like everyone has that, and that's a special bond. And like you said, so you're hoping to still see what you can make out of it. Maybe an album or who knows what could be in the future. I
would love to do that. I would love to do a record of like all the songs my dad and I wrote together, and a bunch more that are sort of kicking around that we were working on. I think that'd be a really easy thing for me to do, and a really good way to sort of, go forward in the grieving process, whatever that is for whoever. But for me, it's like getting to spend time with them in whatever way I can now is, I don't know, it's pretty important. And so I'd like to try and figure out how to do that in a more serious way. And I think a record is a great
Well,
idea.
hopefully though, I was gonna say hopefully you're able to find the right way to keep his memory going. And I mean, you always have the songs that you guys have been able to put out, and you know, I know your dad was a big impact with being able to bounce ideas. Any musical influences out there that were or still are some of made a big impact on you too?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the greatest songwriter, one that I emulate the most is John Prine, and he wrote pretty good stuff about Kentucky. My memory serves, and he's to me he balances the sort of comedy tragedy coin really well. Like that you can laugh or cry at the same moment of the song, and I really just want to tell stories as good as Prine, does, and I learned a lot from listening to him, and he's still one of the guys that I just look back to and look at as one of the great sort of masters of the thing that I'm doing. I think we fall in the same. I'm following in that genre, whatever that is, whatever people want to call it. If they want to call it country or Americana or folk, it sort of combines a lot of those things, and that's exactly who I want to be and what kind of stuff I want to write about. So.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, when it comes to your writing process, what is that like? Because I feel like you're a storyteller at heart.
Yeah, I don't really write about myself much. I'm always looking for really good stories to tell and trying to describe the world through characters. I just think the world's heard a lot of middle class white dudes whining about their lives, and I just don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the whiner. So I do, when I do write from my own perspective, it is pretty positive, and sometimes you just have songs that just come to you stream of conscious and you write them down. But a lot of my songs, I work from an idea first or like a character first. So if I want to write a song about maybe like an old woman who's a farmer who farms. She's been a single woman who runs a big farm for just stories like that aren't particularly common. Trying to describe the world through people's eyes that aren't just like the most obvious, and just that level of particularity. It always comes from the actual person. Like, I have a couple songs about gas station attendants that I've met through the years, waitresses, and it always comes from the actual, the story. The jumping off point comes from an actual person, an actual character, and then a lot of times I don't get to know them well enough to tell their whole story note for note, word for word, but so I end up filling in gaps to try and turn that person into an archetype, into something that does describe the world in a particular way. And so I usually jump off with a particular moment where I met somebody that is strange and interesting, who's also doing something pretty mundane and normal at the same time. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, because like you said, you're also this kind of unique alt country, whatever I don't think you can put you in a box. I don't feel like that's fair, because you also have some fun with some of those lyrics and songs that you get to play.
Yeah, man. I think I don't really have I feel like I'm an adequate singer, but I don't have like a voice that is like big and juicy and low, or like that belongs on the radio. I never really heard myself working on popular radio, and so I don't have to follow any of the rules. I just get to write about what I want to write about, and it sounds how it sounds, and nobody's barking at me to write the next big hit. I just get to like do my thing and roll the dice and hope that it's going to strike a chord with people out there, and so I feel pretty lucky that it's worked. I mean, it always feels like it's drying up and like my career is going to be over, but I think that everybody feels that way in the arts. You're just like constantly dealing with the idea that you're irrelevant, or passe or whatever it is, and it's hard to sort of figure out how to keep going all the time, full steam ahead. But that being said, I've just got off a pretty long tour and it went really well, and so I can't really complain.
Well, I was gonna say you also put out a new album, Almanac.
Mm-hmm.
That came out in April, at the very end of April. Why the title Almanac?
I just I'm surrounded by farmers in my life, and I'm really interested in the Farmer's Almanac as this little guide to weather and to seasons and planting and what to expect, and I like it because it does make some good predictions, but we don't have to take them as seriously as some of the other predictions that get made. It's some of the other ways we predict things, and the way we do news, and the way we are, I'm always just super interested in almanacs, because they're just they're looking at our history to figure out the way forward. And I think that pretty much every good songwriter is, when they put out a record, it is a kind of almanac. It is the way that they expect the world to work, or descriptions of the world to help us figure out how to move forward in it. And I don't know. That record is the closest I've come to having an almanac of my own, and so I just called it that to sort of speak to my agricultural roots, and also to try and be as rooted as possible. You can't figure out which way to go unless you know where you're from, and I think that's the Farmer's Almanac does, and what this record tries to do.
I was gonna say it's a very enjoyable record, and if you haven't listened to it, folks, highly recommend it. And what can folks expect on this record? Because there's some cuts on there that are, I feel like, a little bit of everything, and I feel like getting to talk to you, I'm like, I think that's just Dell.
Yeah, I feel like this record is the first time I got to start with a clean slate. So I put out this record before Almanac called Stray Dogs, which was I went through every notebook and every voice note and every demo I'd ever made, and just sort of collected all of that material, mined every last ounce of gold out of it, and therefore it was like a B-sides record. And so I didn't have anything on the back burner when I was starting to write this record. I feel like I got to write everything all at once. And it's the first time in my 8-record career where I've been able to do that. And so I feel like it is a more direct dose of where my head's at, how I see the world, and the characters that are sort of running between the margins and trying to tell those stories for me. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm turning 40 this year in October, and I feel like I'm just getting better at it. And I feel like I have some confidence about how I write, and I don't feel like I need to apologize for how I write anymore. And I'm not writing to sort of be somebody else, or I feel like I'm just way more direct and honest with my songs now. And I think that everybody who I respect and love who's older than me says it just gets more and more true that you just don't care as much what people think. And I'm finding a lot of really beautiful moments in just not caring and not being able to control what people think. And what I do, it's not for everybody, man. And I'm okay with that. And I don't know if I was okay with that when I was 25, I just...
Well, I was going to say, we learn things as we get older, and one day my daughter will learn that when it's bedtime, it's bedtime. I don't know if she ever... I know. She's having fun. She really just wants to tell me something, and I'm like, just give me 5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
But, on this record, though, I think one of my favorite songs was I Told You So.
Oh,
And is
nice.
there some that just stood out to you that you just hit you a certain way, or just? I know you're not supposed to say you got a favorite, but that might
No,
be
no.
something you enjoy a little bit more.
I love that song, and that song is a perfect example of what I'm talking about because um, I wrote that song for my neighbor. Her husband was in a big tractor accident, and I had never lost anybody big in my life. And it was just like all of a sudden her husband was gone, and he left her with this big farm and a bunch of stuff to do, and she's capable of managing all of it. But I was just trying to empathize with her about a loss that fast and that big, and so of course I sent it to my dad, and he told me he loved it and hung up the phone really quick, and then like 2 days later called me back and was like, I got cancer and I'm not going to last long. And so now when I sing that song, I have to believe those things for myself too. And so it works on a few levels for me, that song. And that's why I think that song's so good because it just became something that I had to actually sing from my own perspective as well as it being from somebody else's, and so I felt like there's a bigger universality to it, and also it's just like it doesn't try too hard. It's pretty simple, and I think my best songs are when there isn't too much going on, and it's I don't know. I sing that one every night now, and it's one I look forward to sing. It's like part of the set I'm just like excited about getting to every night, Yeah, thanks for asking about that one.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, like I said, that's one of my favorite ones off the record, and it's just like you said. I think a lot of people can find themselves in it too, and find something in their past or their life that connects with it. And I think that's really what the best part of songs that you like to do as well. Those storytelling songs where you can really see yourself in it.
I really like the idea of "I told you so." I think it's just like a funny phrase. And there's a bunch of songs that use "I told you so" in it, but especially like from someone who's passed on or someone who might be just is gone in your life now or whatever it is, them being able to make fun of you and remind you that they were right about a bunch of stuff. I think part of the grieving process for me is also just like laughing at myself and how seriously I took a bunch of things, and hearing my dad's voice remind me how little I know, and how right he was about a bunch of stuff in my life, and I can just hear him whispering "I told you so" over and over again and laughing at me, and I really have learned to love that, because when someone tells you "I told you so" in the heat of the moment, it usually doesn't land, like that's a way to make husbands and wives fight. And when someone takes a moment and tells you that they're right and you're wrong, it's tough to stomach. But when you put space between you and time, I think it can be like an actually pretty gentle, little funny way to tell you that there's maybe a better way to do some stuff, So.
There's a meaning behind things, and clearly that's a song that you like to perform now. Is there any others that are some of your favorites, whether they're yours or someone else's, that you just always, when you get the chance to perform, it's something special or something you just always love?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like a rotating thing. Like, and I always like to try and figure out what the audience likes too. Like, my favorite songs to play are generally the ones that the audience requests or I know they're digging. And so those ones, there's that relationship that happens between audience and performer, like when you're kind of on the same ride together. I don't know. So it's always sort of moving around, and it's like a moving target. You're just trying to figure out the right songs to sing from where you're at, and then what the audience wants to hear. I always end the show with a John Prine song of some sort, and lately I've been doing "That's the Way the World Goes Around" and like half an inch of water and you think you're gonna drown. Like I like the songs that make us realize we shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. So anything that does that, I think, is always worth singing about. And I hope that some of my songs say that too. But I know Brian's always good at that, so I always try to end with a song like that.
And like always, technical issues can be fun. They can make life interesting. But what's your favorite thing about being on stage, about being on tour? What's the best thing for you there?
Well, yeah, a couple things. I love what happens when you play with a band who's really well rehearsed and who knows all the songs and who isn't afraid to take risks. Uh, you write all these sets out and then you leave your band space if you're good enough to go places that you didn't plan on going every night, and just having that time to be musical and to like actually play live and see what happens and take risks live that's an incredible thing to be able to do. And then touring itself, man, I just love getting to hang with my friends and see old friends from all over the world. Like, we were in the UK this year, and we hung out with this old tour manager I know, and we were in Europe, and there's just, you're seeing all these crazy places, but you're also like, the biggest part about that is just like remembering all the people you met through the years and getting to spend time with them again, and having beer, whiskey after the show with incredible people, and that's the luxury of this job, is just getting to meet so many weird and interesting people, and I hope I get to keep doing it for that sake.
Well, I was going to say, like you said, you've been on tour a good little bit. You were on tour earlier this year for a couple months. I'm guessing you got some more shows coming up here in a little bit. Anything you can tell us?
Yeah, I'm just continuing to pound the pavement and play as much as I can. And summer festival season starting right away, so I'll be out just playing shows with my band this summer in Canada and in Europe, and just doing the job. And this is usually the most fun time of the year to play, because you're playing outside, and the weather's good, and generally you're not gone for very long. You're away for a weekend and then home, and so there's still lots of time to do stuff at home and to be with the family, and if you're me, go fishing and do that type of thing. So summer is always just like a really great time to play music, because you get paid a little more to be at some of those festivals, and you don't have to like grind it out all week and Monday night at some empty bar. It's just a weekend with a couple shows and then home. So it's pretty great. Summers are awesome for sure.
Well, and then I guess my last question for you is, obviously we're just close to the halfway point of the year. We're almost there. What else is coming up for you? What are you hoping for the rest of 2023?
Yeah, I mean, more tour dates. I'd like to be on the farm a little bit more. I'd just like to not just be thinking about music. I'd like to be a little bit more present with my kids. And I'd like to take time at home and try to write another record. Just try and like put a few weeks aside and just get some ideas down and see if I can get something going here. And the prospect of that is always so intimidating, So I'm just looking down the barrel of the gun and thinking like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to have another record in me. But as soon as you start working on it, things happen pretty quick. And for me, it's about just getting those ideas going. And so I gotta, with kids and a farm and everything, I gotta like carve out that time. I gotta be pretty intentional about writing. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna like open my calendar and I'm gonna put a month aside, and I'm just gonna try to write a record. So yeah, that's what I'm most excited about most. That's my favorite part of this job, is writing songs. So
well, I was gonna say most people nowadays aren't putting out a whole lot of records, and you're already at number 8 in your career and looking at number 9.
There's no reason not to. There's no reason to not just to try and make records, and gives me a reason to tour. It gives me a reason to get out there and push new ideas and songs, and I don't know. It's the reason why I have a career. So I can't. For me, it's like sitting still is the scariest prospect. I want to be working, and I have to write songs in order to work. So yeah, I'm gonna try and write a record as soon as possible. Yeah.
Little extra motivation, right? As you're
Totally.
about to celebrate 40 in the fall.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a scary age to turn, man. I'm a bit freaked out about it for sure. Yeah.
Let me know how it goes. I've got a couple more years. Just turned 36 a couple weeks ago, so I got a
nice.
couple more years.
Well, yeah, you're knocking at the door, so you'll be here in no time, and yeah, I wish you luck with all of the sort of psychological stuff that happened to me when I'm starting to, think about 40 years old. I never pictured myself as a 40-year-old, so I guess we'll see what that feels like shortly. Yeah, come October.
Well, I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure you'll be able to make some more songs, be able to hit the road a little bit more, and hopefully spend a little more time with the family and on the farm. And Del, thanks for sharing stories with me and sharing a drink with me.
Man, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's hopefully I can come out there to Kentucky and see you guys at some point here, and you can put me onto some of the finer bourbons that you guys make. So
we've been known to make a few, and I think we can make that happen.
That sounds great, man. Thank you so much.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.